So we have a lot of candidates for Turk of the Year, and there's 5 in all. There was more that I wanted to put on the list, and I'll mention some of them as we go along. But coming in at number 5 is the Pope, Pope Francis. Now, look, don't get deluded into thinking that he is the world's biggest progressive, etc. But the point of Turk of the Year is to give an award to someone who has challenged the power establishment and has done so courageously. And I think the Pope actually qualifies for that. Now, of course, he's the Pope. He's part of the power establishment, but he's not the only one. There's that entire structure that he's got to say, hey, you know what? You've got to put the brakes on some of these social issues. We're going in the wrong direction. What you got to do is work for the poor and the needy as Jesus Christ wanted you to do. Now that's taking on an established system, and it's doing it with considerable courage. So let me give you some of his quotes. He said, I prefer a church which is bruised, hurting, and dirty because it has been out on the streets rather than a church which is unhealthy from being confined and from clinging to its own security. Look, that sets the tone. That tells you, hey, listen, this isn't for our own personal vanity, right? And so he has dressed in clothes that are less ostentatious, taken cars that are less ostentatious, lives now in a place that's far more humble than before. He's gone out and hugged people, a man whose whole body was covered in tumors. He washed the feet of a Muslim woman. He washed the feet of the homeless. He ate his birthday breakfast with the homeless and with his staff. You might think these are things that a pope should do, but they're not things that a pope has done for a long, long time. Now, then there were the controversial issues. He said, if someone is gay and is looking for the Lord, who am I to judge him? That's not to say that he agrees with all gay rights, but it is an important step in the right direction. Now, I remember during Gorbachev's time, people would say, he's still a communist. I understand the Pope's still the Pope. But that's a big statement to come from the Pope. Furthermore, he said, the Lord has redeemed all of us with the blood of Christ, all of us, not just Catholics, everyone. And he posed the question that someone else had posed to him. Father, the atheists? He said, even the atheists, everyone. So here's a Pope who's clearly reaching out. And when you're in a position of that importance, it makes a big difference when you reach out. We've seen other people who are in positions of power who haven't done very much. So to see the Pope actually look to help the needy is a big, big step. And to open up a big tent for the Catholic Church is the right direction. And then he also spoke about the unfettered free market, which has led to some downsides. He said, just as the commandment, thou shalt not kill, sets a clear limit in order to safeguard the value of human life. Today we also have to say, thou shalt not, to an economy of exclusion and inequality. Such an economy kills. It's obviously a very strong statement. And one where he says, I understand you want to make a lot of money. I know there's a lot of greed in the world, but there's inequality too. And you have to look out for your fellow man. I believe that's what Jesus would have said. I believe that's what all the popes should have been saying. But the fact that Pope Francis has gone in that direction, and it has surprised us, is why he's among the Turk of the Year candidates and why he had a great, great year and would have been worthy of this honor in any year. But this year, it was a crowded field. So number 4 on our list this year was Michael Hastings. Now, Michael Hastings, of course, was also happened to be a friend of ours and a contributor to the Young Turks. But, of course, and he passed away this year. But that's not why he's in this category. It's because if any reporter in the country represented taking on the establishment, it was Michael Hastings. And I remember when we first hired him, we did an informal interview in my office back then. And he talked about his early days when he was first coming up and he was in Iraq and he was working for Newsweek. I want to show you a snippet of that interview to give you a mindset of Michael Hastings as he wanted to take on power from day one. You would write something and what your editor would say what?
It's not even what the editor says, it's just these sort of legacy media companies have particular voices. And what I saw again and again was that the most interesting things that I was filing would end up on the cutting room floor, right? And sometimes it'd be details, say, about a death squad, sometimes it'd be details about something else, but the stuff that I was most interested in never actually made it into the magazine. And so I think, why is that? And I think there's those sort of typical, you're writing for the sort of middle American audience, so they don't want to take too many risks one way or the other. I think that's part of it. But I also think that there's a certain level of truth that you can kind of convey through the sort of that kind of magazine, and you have to go elsewhere if you really want to get close to the bone, at least for my opinion.
Now, what he was saying there about the mainstream media unfortunately proved to be very true. When he broke the story about General McChrystal, most of the media was derisive and said, well, you're not supposed to do that. The general told you that in confidence. Well, actually, he didn't. He never said it was off the record. But they're not used to having someone challenge power like that. And they said, well, we'll lose access. And Michael asked the right question. He said, and you would have that access for what reason? If you don't do the stories that reveal what the generals and our military and our government actually thinks, then what's the point of being a journalist? What's the point of having that access? And by the end, he was very, very frustrated with how the government, including the Obama administration, was handling the press. Now, if you remember, right around this time is when we had found out that they had tapped the phones of the Associated Press, and they had gone after a Fox News reporter that actually did a good piece challenging a government story. And Hastings was understandably upset about that. And he came on the Young Turks and said this.
The Obama administration has clearly declared war on the press. It's declared war on investigative journalists, our sources. I think the only recourse to this kind of behavior by the government is to say back to the government, we declare war on you, and from this point forward, we should no longer, as a media as a whole, cooperate in any manner with the government in terms of when we're doing national security stories. We should withdraw all our cooperation, and we should publish everything we know, because it's a free press. It's not a free except for when the government tells me to do it press. And we've been way too easygoing with these guys. We've let them get away with this for years. We've let them tell us what to print, what not to print. And I say be done with it, and everybody should just get together and fire back, because no one else is going to defend the press.
Well, Michael Hastings was a great defender of the press. He passed away this year. And he will certainly be missed. So now, my God, there's three other people that are in the same category that's worthy of this conversation? I think there are. The third person I want to mention is Chelsea Manning. Now, here's a person who, at great risk to themselves, said, I need to let the American people know about information that I have, and I'm willing to suffer the consequences for it. Here's what Chelsea Manning said. I understand that my actions violated the law. I only wanted to help people. When I chose to disclose classified information, I did so out of a love for my country and a sense of duty to others. I love that quote, and I think he's right. And of course, when he released the papers to WikiLeaks, we found out the cost of the wars in Iraq in terms of human lives and Afghanistan were far, far greater. Of course, we saw the Apache helicopter video where we killed innocent citizens and journalists. And of course, the rest of the press said, oh yeah, we kill innocent people, we kill members of the press, so what? And they turned on Manning and they criticized them over and over again. And you know, the rest of the press, have they considered him a hero? I don't know, I don't care. To us, if you think Manning is a hero, you're not alone. There's a lot of us who think that. Now, at the time, he had said, patriotism is often the cry extolled when morally questionable acts are advocated by those in power. When these cries of patriotism drown out any logically based dissension, it is usually the American soldier that is given the order to carry out some ill-conceived mission. Now, I love that because what he's saying there is, look, you think that it's patriotic to just shut up and say, yes, go on that ill-conceived mission and get Americans killed. It's not. The patriotic thing to do is to let the American people know, because they're supposed to make that decision and that they need to be informed about it. Went on to say, if you deny my request for a pardon, I will serve my time knowing that sometimes you have to pay a heavy price to live in a free society. You know, you often hear right-wingers crying out, freedom isn't free. Well, nobody knows that better than Chelsea Manning. And finally, in the midst of all this, and actually let me give you one more quote related to that. He said, I will gladly pay that price if it means we could have a country that is truly conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all women and men are created equal. And finally, in the midst of all this, you know, I've been referring to him as he throughout the story, because when he gave those quotes, he was Bradley Manning. At the end of his trial, with all this scrutiny and all of this spotlight on him, he invited even more criticism by being courageous enough to say, you know what, I'm not Bradley Manning, I'm Chelsea Manning. and I've always felt that I was a woman, and I'm going to announce that to the world. She, at this point, said, as I transition into this next phase of my life, I want everyone to know the real me. I am Chelsea Manning. I am a female. Given the way that I feel and I have felt since childhood, I want to begin hormone therapy as soon as possible. I hope that you will support me in this transition. That is extraordinary courage. The first act of courage, of course, is the revelations to the American people, and then just icing on the cake to come out and say, I don't care what kind of criticism you've given me, this is who I really am. I love that. Now, second person that I want to mention here as a runner-up is Malala Yousafzai. She's the one who won last year for Turk of the Year, for our first ever Turk of the Year. Now, how much more courageous can you get than getting shot in the face by the Taliban and then getting up and still taking them on? Well, this year, after she recovered, she went to the White House and talked to President Obama. Now, oftentimes when critics of the president, whether it's a Republican or Democratic president, go to the White House, they get awed and they wind up not criticizing the president, but praising him over and over and fawning. Not Malala. As usual, incredible courage. She said, I thank President Obama for the United States work in supporting education in Pakistan and Afghanistan and for Syrian refugees. I also expressed my concerns that drone attacks are fueling terrorism. How many progressives have gone in that White House and never had the courage to say that to his face? But Malala thinks, what can you do to me that others haven't already tried? So as the president is commending her, and he's brought his daughters in, he's brought his family in, she's like, that's very nice, I appreciate it. And remember, the drone strikes are often on Al-Qaeda and the Taliban, the people who attacked her. She says, thanks but no thanks. You're actually killing a lot of innocent civilians, and it's counterproductive, and it's not the right idea. You want to talk about a profile in courage. She said, innocent victims are killed in these acts, and they lead to resentment among the Pakistani people. If we refocus our efforts on education, it will make a big impact. So, saying to the president, hey, drones aren't the right way. Education's the right way. Now, I got shot in the first place because I was advocating education. The Taliban was against that. I need you to be in favor of it. She went on the Daily Show and she explained, look, these Taliban, what if they come after you again? She said, if you hit a Talib, and what should we do with them? She said, if you hit a Talib, then there would be no difference between you and the Talib. You must not treat others with cruelty. You must fight others through peace and through dialogue and through education. Unbelievable courage and wisdom from a young woman. Now, when asked about all this, she continued on the Daily Show and said, I would tell them how important education is and that I would even want education for your children as well. That's what I want to tell you. Now do what you want. Whether she's speaking truth to power to the Taliban or to President Obama, I've hardly seen someone with this kind of courage. But finally, the incredible quote she gave Norah O'Donnell at CBS is when Norah O'Donnell asked her, aren't you afraid of the Taliban? Here's what Malala said. If you kill someone, it shows that you are afraid of that person. So why should I be afraid of someone who's afraid of me already? Damn. She's like, I'm not afraid of them. If they shot me in the face, they're afraid of me. Astounding courage. So I was tempted to make Malala the Turk of the Year again, but it's got to go to Edward Snowden. Now, when you talk about Edward Snowden, you should also, of course, point out the great journalists who helped him: Glenn Greenwald, Laura Poitras, etc. The Guardian ran stories, Washington Post ran stories, and Der Spiegel and many other papers throughout the world continue to run Snowden stories. But boy, did we find out a lot about what our government was doing. The unconstitutional spying on all American citizens. They claimed otherwise, but they were lying, and Snowden showed it to us. Snowden said, all my options are bad. Yes, I could be rendered by the CIA. I could have people come after me, or any of the third-party partners. They work closely with a number of other nations. I do not expect to see home again, though that is what I want. Knowing at great personal sacrifice, he went to Hong Kong, he went to Russia, he's looking for asylum in Germany and Brazil. He's on the run throughout the world. They stopped the planes of other nations' presidents just to make sure he wasn't on them. There's an international manhunt for this guy. He might never return to the country that he loves, but he did it so that we could find out what our government was actually up to, what Big Brother was up to. This is exactly why we give this award. He says, for me, in terms of personal satisfaction, The mission's already accomplished. I already won. As soon as the journalists were able to work, everything that I had been trying to do was validated. And here's the quote, part of the quote that I love. He said, because, remember, I didn't want to change society. I wanted to give society a chance to determine if it should change itself. So he's not saying the mission is accomplished and that the NSA is no longer going to run that program and, you know, the politicians have changed or the establishment has changed. But he said, my mission was to tell you the truth. And now the American people, you know the truth. Now, whether you want to change that is up to you. But I've given that to you. And he has. And he's paid the price for it and probably will pay the price maybe for the rest of his life for it. So that's exactly the kind of courage we're talking about. And finally, recently he said this, I'm not trying to bring down the NSA. I'm working to improve the NSA. I'm still working for the NSA right now. They're the only ones who don't realize it. Now, former head of the NSA, Michael Hayden, has called him a defector, a traitor, said he committed treason, and that the NSA is infinitely weaker because of his revelations. Of course, I don't agree with Michael Hayden. I agree with Edward Snowden. I think the NSA is stronger, our country is stronger, and our principles are stronger because Edward Snowden spoke out. So, very proud to announce that Edward Snowden is our second ever Turk of the Year.